A lot of us feel stuck in our lives, like we're in a rut and we can't seem to get out of it. And if you actually take the time to figure out what's going on with you, what you'll find out is that there are a lot of negative emotions at play in your life. Now, I'm convinced fully that the reason why there's so much negative emotion at play in so many people's lives right now is because we are in a time where unforgiveness reigns. We're not forgiving people. And one of the main reasons a lot of people say, well, I have forgiven. I said the words, I tried to mean it, tried to believe it, but it's hard. I can't seem to break through. Like maybe you forgave somebody 20 years ago and still you have that I'd punch them in the face if I had a chance kind of a mindset. Listen to me. Forgiveness is actually the easiest thing in the world for us to do when we take a broader perspective so that we can get more specific with what's going on in us. My name is Thomas Shirley, and I want to help you build life better. Forgiveness is the key. Without giving forgiveness, we don't get to experience the forgiveness that already is. There is no place in the heart of God where we need to be forgiven for anything. We are forgiven. We have a clean record, a clean slate, if you will. Forgiveness and experienced forgiveness are available to us only when we become the person that frees ourselves. We create this energetic grid in our lives that has a lot of opposition, a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, and a lot of pushback. And so we get into situations, relationships of various kinds in our lives. And those relationships, those experiences and circumstances, they're muddled with unforgiveness. We have all of these perspectives about all of these different people and circumstances that make it very difficult for us to come back to a place where our energetic field is free from a whole lot of negativity. See, when you don't forgive, what you're doing is you're keeping people and events and circumstances in your life, in your field of energy, literally causing their energy, what they did, to be a part of your daily experience. So forgiveness is the key, because when we forgive, we free ourselves, we release them, we let them go so they can reap whatever harvest it is that they're going to reap. And you don't really know what that harvest is. We don't know what it is because we don't have that broad perspective that helps us to see things in a much greater way, from a much loftier position. We don't see that. So we have to take our eyes off of the people, and we have to allow ourselves to find through that broader perspective the specific way that we can get free from the bitterness and resentment that we hold from the past, perhaps even things that are happening in our lives right now. A number of years ago, a mental institution for the criminally insane was having tremendous struggles: depression, anxiety, conflict, abuse, aggression, violence, very, very prominent at this hospital. The hospital had a hard time keeping staff members because many of them were afraid, or they would just come to work and just the heaviness, the oppression of what was there would settle in on them. Somebody at this hospital heard about a doctor that had had tremendous success, and he was brought in as a consultant. He came in a few times a week for about 3 years. And over that period of time, he saw this hospital radically transformed, radically freed, radically released from all the bondage and captivity, to the point where violence and aggression had drastically decreased, and the overall environment of the place was such that employees and inmates were able to experience some level of freedom from a lot of the anger and difficulty that they had been experienced prior to this. Now, the amazing thing about this story is that this doctor never spent one moment with any of the inmates or the staff members. This doctor instead went into the files of each of the inmates and would spend time reading through the things that they had been guilty of committing prior to being incarcerated in this institution, and also the things that they struggled with while they were in the institution, things that came out in counseling and in therapy. And all this doctor did is he forgave. He simply forgave every single thing that he saw in that person's file, in that person's life, by what he saw in the file. But he did so by himself taking responsibility. And the results were absolutely phenomenal. The doctor's name is Dr. Hugh Lin. Perhaps you've heard of him. He is largely responsible for popularizing the modality known as Ho'oponopono. Ho'oponopono is an ancient Hawaiian tradition that was used when tribes would come together to try to work out issues. And in antiquity, the Hawaiian Islands were filled with many different tribes, and so they had to try to work together or work through issues. And so they would use this modality, and now it is something that has been repackaged, if you will, by infinite intelligence, by divine love, has been repackaged to bring it to the people, if you will, and enable us to experience a much better way of living our lives. Now, you may have heard about Ho'oponopono. You may practice Ho'oponopono. I hope that you hear me out as I give you maybe some perspectives that you have not heard before. I would also encourage you to purchase the book by Dr. Joe Vitale, Zero Point. I read this book years ago. I wasn't at a place personally in my life where it was very applicable to me, or at least I didn't feel like it was. And so I did not continue using it. But in the last several weeks, this particular mode of forgiveness has been highlighted to me again, and I am seeing tremendous results personally as a result of practicing this very, very simple prayer. All right, so let's dive right in. What is Ho'oponopono? It's a very simple prayer. Like I said, here it is. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. Now, the order in which you say these phrases really is not that important. It also is not that important how much faith or emotion that you have backing you in this. But I hope that as you hear my perspective on these phrases and how they work together to bring freedom, that you will begin to practice this with a little bit more knowledge. Knowledge is the key to mastery of anything. And so I hope that you take the time. So let's go through it real quick. I'm sorry. Now, a lot of times when we come to forgiveness, we often think that it's the offender that needs to be forgiven. We think that it's the person that did something. And there is a level of truth in that, but the forgiving of that person isn't about the person. It's about the energy of that person that you have in your vibrational field. It's a part of your frequency. You carry that abuse, that trauma with you into every situation. And some people have had so much abuse, so much trauma, or have built it up so much in their own subconscious mind that it is palpable. Like I have been in the presence of people before that you could just feel the weight of the negativity that they had in their lives. Forgiveness has nothing to do with the other person in Ho'oponopono. Instead, it has to do with you. So here you are, you're living your life. You've got this offender that you have kept going in your head, and it's a part of your vibrational field, and that person is always with you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I'm keeping this here. I'm sorry that I'm allowing this to be here. I'm sorry that I'm allowing this to be a part of my experience. Perhaps it's something that you're responsible for, that you know you're guilty of doing this, and you want it removed from your life. But because it's been done, or it is perhaps something that is being done on a regular basis, you are literally sinning against your own body, your own mind, your own brain, your own destiny. And so when you acknowledge the fact, I'm sorry that I've got this other person's nonsense in my field. I'm sorry that I'm responsible for the things that I've done. I'm sorry for what I've been hanging on to. And when you confess this, when you make this confession, I am sorry, what you are doing is you are saying, listen, I take responsibility for the fact that this is here. You say, well, I was abused as a kid. Listen, I'm not saying that you were responsible for what happened to you as a child, okay? But if it's still in your vibrational field, if it's still a part of your emotional makeup, then you are responsible. You are accountable. And you need to hold yourself accountable when you are facing issues in your life. Perhaps you're in conflict with your spouse or a coworker. Perhaps you're worked up about the political system, the elections that we had recently. Perhaps you're stressed about what's going on at church or at a club or with your friends or whatever. When you say, I'm sorry, what you're doing is you're acknowledging the fact that I have within my vibrational field, I have within my own subconscious, all of these issues that I am looking at and frustrated about. They're here in me now because I've made these things, these people, the focus of my attention, and now I've invited them into my sphere of energy, my bubble, if you will, and now they're here, and so I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't want it to be here. It's not about letting someone else off the hook. It's about you taking responsibility for the fact that you still have it in your experience, because that's the only place that you have any control over. So the second statement is, please forgive me. I'm sorry. I take accountability. please forgive me, quite simply means I'm asking you to remove this. In Ho'oponopono, the whole concept behind this prayer is the memories that we have. And when we have the memories of offenses of the past or of our own guilt, of our own shame, of our own issues, we have whatever it is going on in us, when we have it there, it's memories that are replayed. It's an unconscious stream of thought that just goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. And many people, possibly most people on the earth, everyone has this, but most of the people that have this stream of thought going on in them, it is, like I said, unconscious. Therefore, they're not aware of it. We're not aware of the thoughts that we think. We're not aware of what's going on. They say that we have somewhere between 85 and 95,000 thoughts a day, and about 85% of those thoughts are unconscious. We're completely unaware of the fact that they're going on. So when you come into this modality of Ho'oponopono and you say, you know what, I acknowledge this is here. It's in my vibrational field. This is all I'm actually able to do anything about. It's the only thing that I'm actually responsible for. I can't do anything about the offender. I'm responsible for this and I want this removed from me. What you're saying is I want the memories that are on autoplay to be removed from my life. And here's the beautiful thing about it. If we confess our sins, he is faithful and just to forgive us our sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. In other words, to remove from us the memory of the offense. Now, it might be a conscious memory that you can look back and say, I remember when that happened, but in your subconscious, it's reprogrammed, it's gone. Very powerful, very, 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 very powerful. So the third statement in this prayer is thank you. Gratitude. Gratitude is the most powerful tool in our arsenal. It is the greatest weapon that we have with which to break shackles, to break prison walls and doors and free ourselves from these things that we have been allowing to live and exist within our vibrational field. And not only allowing, but for the most part, we really feed them. We really keep like just, oh, I remember when that asshole cut me off today. You know, we just keep going and going and going and going with it. But gratitude bypasses all of that because not only does that gratitude say, you know what? I'm grateful that I confessed and acknowledged this and took responsibility. I'm grateful that when I acknowledge it and ask that it be removed, it's taken away from me. But I'm also grateful that whatever, I'm grateful for life. I'm grateful for every opportunity that I have to live a better experience and have more joy and have more peace and experience the kingdom of heaven here on this earth. You see, the corporate consciousness wants to mindfully lead us into experiences where we know who we are and what we are and where we're from, and we live our lives out of that powerful, powerful place. It's really remarkable. Gratitude is the most important thing that you can possibly exercise. You say, I don't feel like I have anything to be grateful for. Fair enough. I've been there. I've been there a lot in my life. But at the end of the day, I always recognize, you know what? I have amazing children. I'm grateful. Amazing spouse. I'm grateful. I have food to eat and shelter and clothing, and I have friends and I have opportunities, and I live in a nation that's still got some general freedom to it. I have gratitude. I'm grateful that I have a connection with God. I'm grateful that I'm learning who I am. I'm grateful that I'm experiencing the really, really great things that are available to me. And I'm grateful that I'm here at this place in my life right now where I'm taking responsibility for me, because I'm the only person I can take responsibility for. So I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. And then the fourth statement, I love you. Oh my gosh. The absolute power behind those three simple words, I love you. Now, there's a whole lot of us that have spent a large part of our lives saying, I hate you. I'm going to kick your ass. I'm going to get even with that guy if it's the last thing I do. They just wait until their back's turned. I'm going to get them good. Now, when we live our lives like that, we have vengeance and retribution in our hearts and this need to get even or to stay focused on someone that has offended us or done us wrong. It makes it difficult in this, but that's where this modality is so beautiful. When you recognize that, when you recognize I hate you and that negativity and that strife and conflict and that depression and despair that you go through, all the crap that's inside of you, when you acknowledge it and say, man, I'm sorry, this is here. I'm taking responsibility. Please take this away from me. Please forgive me. And thank you so much for doing this for me. I love you. And truthfully, the most powerful part of this particular statement is that you're really speaking to yourself. I love you. I love Thomas Shirley. And I'm learning to love Thomas Shirley more and more. Not my dad, Thomas Shirley. I'm the junior. But I'm learning to love myself more and more. I'm learning to experience myself more and more. And I do love my dad. Okay. So chill. But I'm loving myself more and more. And when I take the time to go through this modality where I'm taking responsibility and I'm releasing the things that I don't want and I'm operating in gratitude, then what I'm doing is I'm literally loving myself because I'm freeing myself. I'm freeing this. I'm freeing my subconscious mind from this negativity and the pain and the hurt of the past. Look, I know, okay? I get it. It hurts. It's hard. It's difficult. You're in pain. You've been wounded. You want people to get back what they gave out, and you want them to know how badly they hurt you. But may I say to you, my friend, that the chances of that happening in almost any situation are extremely, extremely, extremely low. Most of the people that hurt us in our lives are gone long before we come to a place where we actually begin to process actual forgiveness. Now, this broader perspective takes us out and says, you know what? I recognize the fact that everyone around me, everyone on this planet has the same thing going on that I have going on, right? You familiar with the crucifixion story of Jesus when he's on the cross and everyone's just talking trash to him and those very powerful little words, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. How long have you lived your life, or in the past perhaps? Maybe now you're in a really great place moving forward. How much time have you spent in your life staying focused on the negativity and being a part of the negativity, being a part of the problem as opposed to the solution that you came here to be? So when you come into this place of understanding and get this broad perspective and you look at the person that offended you and you recognize, man, what happened to that person that got them so jacked up that they became the person that could do that? Or what happened to me? Or how have I allowed this to make me the kind of person that I have become? Oh, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. Now, one more thing about this, you can actually just take maybe one or two or three of these phrases. You don't have to do all of them. I will often just walk around the house or when I'm out driving around, thank you, I love you. Thank you, I love you. Somebody will cut me off. Thank you, I love you. And I'm actually sometimes meaning it when I say it. Or I'll say, I'm sorry. Thank you. I'm sorry. I love you. Please forgive me. I love you. Why? Because I know that in this simple admission coming out of my mouth with a heart that may not have a whole lot of faith and belief in it, but enough to actually say it. And because this mode of prayer has such an anointing, the release of it into the world is just dripping with favor and grace. Because that is the case, like I can actually do this even though I might not mean it or even believe it or accept it. Now, you say, well, how long should I do this? I am challenging you to take 7 days, the next 7 days. And as much as you can remember to, I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. Now, I don't necessarily recommend that you say this to people, although we do, right? When we know we're responsible for something with people, often we will. I'm sorry, forgive me. I love you. Thank you, right? Those are things that we say all the time. But in this case, you're literally speaking to your own energetic field and subconscious and saying, you know what? I don't want this to be a part of the process or the experience any longer for me. You're freeing yourself. Now, Ho'oponopono is powerful. When you wake up in the morning, try to say it at least once. When you have any type of an event throughout the day that stresses you out or gets you frustrated, try to say it. Middle of the day, maybe set yourself an alarm, or maybe at your lunch break, have something in your lunch box or your wallet that when you take your card out to pay for lunch, you can be reminded, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And then throughout the day again after that, try to remember to incorporate this simple little recitation into your experience and before you go to bed at night. I highly recommend, if at all possible, before you go to bed tonight, to revise your day. You remember that coworker that was a jerk. You remember how your boss spoke to you, how your spouse snapped at you this morning, how your kids turned your head just a little bit and got you stressed out. You remember, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. Listen, in the description below, there's a link. If you are interested in receiving your own personal prophecy, I encourage you to click that link, fill out the request form, and I will spend time praying for you and considering your situation. And I will get back to you with a recorded prophecy that will speak directly to your life and will help you get some perspective and some help along the way. Until next time, my friends, be blessed.